role of the opposition is to develop our policy ideas, our
But before
policy
you go
commitments.
there, by way of a teaching moment, tell
Yeah.
our listeners why is this 60% debt to GDP important, and which one of the fastest economies in the world have a debt to GDP of 60%?
Well, the established thinking
Mm-hmm.
was that 60% represents a sustainable debt level
Mm-hmm.
for a developing country such as ours. And
Who
that is
established
why
that thinking?
that was established, I believe, by the international financial institution, you
Mm-hmm.
know. And you will recall that we were in an IMF
Yeah,
program,
man.
and that was the debt to GDP ratio which it was agreed was appropriate for Jamaica to aim for.
Mm-hmm.
And we are well on our way, well on our way to getting there, because I think we're at about 69%
Mm-hmm.
now.
68 and change,
Co-
them say.
yeah,
Yeah, okay.
coming from over 140%,
Yeah, they
which is
said
where
135, but it was 147. Yeah.
yeah, I think different rating agencies have a different method of measuring it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think they may have been quoting a percentage from one source, but the generally quoted reference is, I think, 147
Yeah,
or
man.
something like that.
147. Yeah, man.
Yeah. So this is in a country which is prone to external shocks, and where we have an imbalanced economy, which is running
Mm-hmm.
trade deficits and that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
We don't want to have unnecessary buildup of debt to fund, recurrent expenses that are not generating revenue. I
Yeah,
mean,
man, we know, but we
Yeah.
just wanted to explain to the people
yeah,
by
yeah,
way of
man.
the
Mm-hmm.
process
I
of education. Yeah.
yes, and I was just adding a little more to that explanation because, for example,
Mm-hmm.
in the UK, the current government there, they have relaxed their fiscal rules a
Correct.
bit,
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
so
And
as
they're
to
at
allow
100%.
yes, but because their economy is lagging,
Mm-hmm.
they see a need to invest
Mm-hmm.
in capital projects,
Mm-hmm.
infrastructure, and other important investments that can create growth.
Germany
That
just
will allow.
passed 500 billion yesterday, too, as one of the most fiscally prudent countries in
Mm-hmm.
Europe. Yep.
That's right. Germany has also done that, really in reaction to the geopolitical situation, but
Precisely.
also because their economy has been
In
lagging.
recession for three
Yes.
years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is, the thinking on these matters is not fixed; it evolves
Correct.
over
Right.
time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but we believe that where Jamaica is now, we don't see a need to really grow our debt to GDP
Yeah, man.
ratio.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah. So the question was, how will we pay for our proposals? And
Yes.
the point I am making is that we are not, when we make these proposals, we're not constructing this year's budget. This year's budget has been constructed by the government.
Mm-hmm.
They have made their decisions, and those decisions include about $360 billion of
Correct.
discretionary expenditure
Correct.
programs.
Yeah,
In
man.
other words, expenditure other than salaries for public sector workers and interest on the debt.
Right.
And
And for those who believe you are making it up, it is in the fiscal policy paper, which is one of the most important documents tabled by the Minister of Finance.
that's right.
Yeah.
Under the fiscal rules
Mm-hmm.
and the fiscal responsibility framework that we pass, there's a requirement for the budget, when it's tabled, to be accompanied by a fiscal policy paper,
Mm-hmm.
which sets out the government's commitments and an overall, overview of the economy and the assumptions that give rise to those commitments. It's a very important document, and there's one in September as well, an interim one, so it's
Right.
twice a year. So in the fiscal policy paper that was tabled
But don't you
by
believe that all the analysts, or so they are called, who comment on the budget should read these papers?
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely, I think anybody who's interested in public affairs in Jamaica should read the fiscal policy paper
Correct.
because
Yes.
there's a lot of information in there, and it will help to increase people's understanding of the way the
Precisely.
economy works.
Correct.
Yeah,
Yeah, man.
yeah. And in fact, I think students should read it too.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Students of economics at university and
Mhm.
students who are doing any kind of finance-related courses, even at high school,
Yes.
because it is a document which has, as I said, a lot to teach us. So we are not constructing this year's budget with our proposals. We are assuming we're inheriting
Mm-hmm.
a budget So, for example, the National Housing Trust extraction of resources,
Yes.
that money for this current fiscal year has already been taken by the government, and they're projecting to take it again in the coming fiscal year, the 11.4 billion. That's in their budget already.
Yes.
So when the election is held, which will be some point during the coming fiscal year, that is already a done deal. But the important point to note is that the legislation that they passed, which had extended the period of taking this amount each year out of the National Housing Trust, $11.4 billion a year, that the last year that legislation allows the money to be taken is the coming fiscal year ending March 2026.
Right.
Okay.
So whichever government is in power,
Has to stop
that
it.
money has to stop being taken,
Right.
unless they propose to amend the act again to continue taking it, which I think that's unlikely, because from what I understand, even within the NHT now, there are strong concerns being voiced as to the impact of this annual extraction of their capital. So I don't think that is going to be. So either government I think is going to have to deal with it. But the reality of it, of course, Ralston, is that and this is a little bit technical, but I will try, and you can also help to explain this to our listeners. As GDP grows, and we're talking in particular about nominal GDP, because there's a difference between nominal and real GDP
Don't you
growth.
think the analysts should know that too?
Yeah.
Many of
So
them don't know that.
nominal GDP is really the aggregate,
Yes.
the totality of the value in money terms of output for the year,
Correct.
Goods and services.
Yeah, man.
And then real GDP is measuring, well, how much has that, when you adjust it for
Producer
inflation
and
rate,
consumer inflation.
Yes.
Yeah, man.
what is the real value of that growth? And so most of the time, people are focused on real GDP growth when they want to see how the economy is performing.
Right.
But when you're talking about things like tax revenues, nominal GDP growth is very relevant.
As well as the debt to GDP ratio.
As well as the debt to GDP ratio. And in the scheme of things, if you look at the fiscal policy paper, there is an anticipated, I think, $240 billion
in additional taxes.
In additional tax revenue projected over the next 4 years.
Yeah, man.
When we cost our proposals annually, we're, somewhere around 10% of that.
Nowhere near that.
Yeah, nowhere near that annually. So, we are not anticipating a problem in funding our proposals. Plus, the $360 billion that is in the budget for discretionary spending and programs represent this government's priorities, what they believe in. People are not electing the PNP government under my leadership to implement the Labour Party's policies.
Right.
They are going to elect us to implement our policies, which we are outlining steadily, starting with this budget debate. So we will look closely at that $360 billion, and we will decide whether we want to keep or not, or reduce particular programs that are in there, and create the fiscal room for the programs that we believe are more important. That is what a government does.
Precisely.
So, we are not anticipating A, having to raise taxes, or B, having to exceed the permitted amount of financing available within the fiscal rules.
Precisely.
So, what these so-called analysts who are asking us to explain how we're going to fund our program just need to look at those two realities.
Yeah, man. I'm saying them done. And there's also another third reality, because under the fiscal policy paper, it also says that any government can run an average fiscal deficit of 1.3% of GDP over the period in order to still hit the 60% during the prescribed time frame.
Well, what I would say in response to that, and as you rightly point out, the fiscal policy paper projects the level of deficit that is expected by this government to be run over the next 4 years.
Right. So you can also change it and reduce it.
And they are projecting, although they are projecting a balanced budget for this fiscal year, they are projecting a deficit for the next 3, I think it is.
Next 3 years, 33.4. Yeah, 33.47 billion next year, 35 billion the year after, and $4.18 billion the year after. That's 28, 29. Yeah.
So they are projecting that they're going to be engaged in some deficit financing for those years.
Right.
But the point really is, and every government does that around the world. I mean, there's nothing peculiar about that. In fact, they do it in much bigger volumes than we. None of those annual deficits that you just outlined amount to 1% of GDP.
No.
Right? They're all within 1% of GDP.
Correct.
Blessed is the man that walketh not in the counsel of the ungodly, nor standeth in the ways of sinners, nor sitteth in the seat of the scornful. But his delight is in the law of the Lord, and in his law do we meditate day and night. For we shall be like trees planted by the rivers of water, that bringeth forth its fruit in its season. Our leaves shall not wither, and whatsoever we do shall prosper. Welcome to Portland Spice TV. Talk to me for yet another Saturday morning. My name is Colin Anthony Bell, SHACKA fame, fearless and fear. Truth is our mantra. We don't claim balance, but we aim to speak the truth and nothing but the truth. So help me, Almighty God. This morning, we're going to be talking to the teacher, Ralston Hyman, somewhere about 9:30. But before we go to Ralston Hyman, there are two issues. I see I'm going to put my finger. I'm not about to make a mistake. There are two issues that I want to touch on this morning. One, the power of money, or the value of our money. And two, the Providence, the Operation Pride housing scheme in Portland. One Operation Pride housing scheme in Portland, Norwich Heights. I want to set the record straight. Not see if I get Dexter Roland for me. On him phone. I'm trying to get him, but I don't know why it's not ringing. But we want to set the record straight, and there are a number of people that we would prefer to talk to who are not politically inclined. But because of the level of political victimization in East Portland, they are afraid to come on. They talk to me after the year, they give me all the history. And I know the history. Because let me declare that I am one of the first person to build a house at Norwich Heights. Yeah, I built a house at Norwich Heights. Yeah, man. We still have that house up there. So, I know all the background in Norwich Heights. I used to be a part of the meetings. We used to meet over the old marina first. And then the meetings start keeping at the Port Antonio Infant School. The Bournebrook Infant School, sorry. So, I don't really need nobody to tell me the history about Norwich Heights. I know it inside out. I live it. And I hear a lady say 30 years no road, no down Norwich Heights. Norwich Heights has not been in existence for 30 years. I don't remember the years them exactly, but what I can remember is that I moved into my first house in October 2002. And at that time, we never have the house on Norwich Heights yet. And as I said to you, me build one of the first house. There's a policeman and a lady who used to work with SDC, who their house was finished before mine, upon Norwich Heights. But in terms of the first set of people to build, because when I was building at Norwich Heights, proper roads were there. And this lady never knew Norwich Heights then time there. Because she a come here. She's not a Portlander. So Dancing Queen, check your history. Norwich Heights has not been in existence for 30 years. However, she said she's going to refurbish the road. Now, the prefix re means back. So if you're going to fix it back, it means it was there. And I hear a man talk about this election is going to be a battle for the truth. And I have been telling you all that the truth and the GLP now have no lot in our part. They don't know nothing about truth. So Norwich Heights were the vision of Dexter Rowland and Donald Rod. And them man, they come up with that plan there to get Norwich Heights developed. Norwich Heights was a cow pasture. And I want to call all the people over Norwich Heights will live over there if you come listen to this. Because when you talk about government policy, Norwich Heights, Fair Real Estate, those are PNP policy schemes. So everybody will live in a Norwich Heights and Fair Real Estate live on them place there because the PNP decide to cut up the lands, and make citizens have them. Now, one of the aim of Norwich Heights was to make government workers get land for build house. So, I think somewhere about 2000, between 2000 and 2005, the whole thing for Norwich Heights developed. The lots were bigger than they are now. The lots were cut up bigger. However, Dr. Rod in his wisdom realized that more people could get access to those lands if they cut them smaller. So they decided to downsize the lots and cut them up. Now, I'm going to tell you something. When the meetings were being held, whole heap of meetings, there was a discussion about the road. And the Operation Pride people told us that there are two options. They could have fixed the road with Barber Green and do all of the proper infrastructure, but the lands would be dearer, would be more expensive. They could fix the road, put grit and tar, gravel and tar upon it, and the lands would be cheaper. Hear me. The people agreed to take the cheaper way. You hear me say? Norwich Heights. I mean, I talk about those who buy land from the original people. Because I also got to tell you how cheap those lands were. Those lands were the cheapest land for sale anywhere. Because I bought land in Fair Real Estate. And the land I bought in Fair Real Estate was 100 meters square smaller than the piece up on Norwich Heights. But the piece of Fair Real costs 150,000 more than the piece of Norwich Heights. The piece of Norwich Heights was about 200 and a little bit of thousand. People get land on Norwich Heights with 100,000. SHACKA fame, I tell you that. So the PNP cut up the land, put in road, put in light, and sold the land for little and nothing to Portlanders. Teachers got land. Nurses got land. Police got land. Firemen got land. There's over 400 lots down Norwich Heights. You must know the history. We're talking about Operation Pride. PJ Patterson, baby. Yeah? Dexter Rowland insists that some labor rights must get land up there. And labor rights got land up there. In fact, the secretary for the, what did they call the group again? It was a Providence Society? Or whatever the group name, it was a labor right who was the secretary. The lady who chaired it, I can't remember, I think she was a PNP. But the secretary, I know, was a labor right. And she get land. Whole heap of labor right get land on Norwich Heights. Morning, my big picnic. So, the land's cut up and houses start building. And I tell you something more. It is because of Norwichites' Operation Pride why a NHT office is still in Port Antonio. Because nothing was happening. If it wasn't for Norwichites and Fear Real Estate, NHT office would have left Port a long time. So the construction started at Norwichites. Water was a problem and the pipes were laid. There was a problem with the pipes that were laid and some digging up had to go on and some further works were done. When the PNP lost in 2007, the work slowed down. When the PNP came back, I think the pipes were laid. You getting that? I think the pipes were laid. And anybody from Norwichites want to call me can call me. But when Dr. Maurice Guy was the housing minister, that tank where you see up on Norwichites, Dr. Maurice Guy get that tank put up there. Between 2012 and 2016. Dancing Queen no run one length of pipe and Norwichites. And I'm going to go to know very touchy part. All the pipes were run. The pumps put in over Norwich School. If you are past Norwich Primary School, going up the hill, you see some pumps on the left-hand side. Those were put in under the PNP administration. When the road were being fixed, that wall, I think that wall end up on piece of the pipe, on part of the pipe. So there was a problem with just right there, so. And Dr. Linville Bloomfield, the late member of Parliament for East Portland, tried and tried, and he was blocked. Dr. Linville Bloomfield, the late member of Parliament for East Portland, was not allowed to get the work done to turn on the pipe for Watergar Norwichites. The GLP government of the day blocked him. And you can't figure out who. And that's why some of us are very skeptic about the murder of Dr. Bloomfield. The man was the MP under a Labourite government. And him could have never. I curse him. Because the man could have never get the little piece of places of a fix where the pipe end up under the wall. Him could have never get it happen. And in less than about 2 months after the new MP came into power, it was sorted out. And Norwichites get water once a week. Let me tell you something. The GLP now run one length of pipe. If you make that happen. Maybe about half a length. So when me hear she a brag about she put water on Norwichites, go sit down. Take a seat. And if you have anything to do with the road, we're going to fix now because I'm trying to get Roland. Because me also understand that Roland wrote to the HAJ to get the road fixed. Because in 2019, when we had the by-election, Andrew Holness went up to Norwichites and promised the people that he was going to fix the road. Made a promise that he was going to fix the road in Norwichites. In fact, him tell him say he couldn't fix all of the road, but he was going to fix the main road. All now, no election a come, we see them a run up and down. But I said to the people of Norwichites, every single one of you will live up there. It is because of the policies of the People's National Party, why Norwichites is in existence. So when you're going to talk about Norwichites is a field project, how you can have 400 houses on a field project? Go fix the road. You must do something because that's all you do. Fix a few roads. For 18 years, your husband has been a member of parliament for West Portland. Show me some of the lands where him cut up the people. I love talk about PNP 18 years. We can defend that 18 years under the People's National Party. Norwichites is a part of that 18 years that people have pride and dignity because people own their own houses, have a roof over their heads because PNP decide that they must get land. Where are the lands that the GLP cut up for the people for the last 14 years that they have been in power? Where the land them there? So, we talk truth because me can't believe say the man put a piece of green card over the people them, and some people don't see nothing wrong with that. I don't know that. Simone Beckford, I don't know that. But that is the story of Norwichites. It's not there for 30 years. Maybe if you say 25 and 25, few people would have had houses there for 25 years. So you're pushing it a little bit. But I beg you to share the channel. Like up the video, everybody. We have over 400 devices on the live right now. Just touch the like now, it not cost you nothing. Like up the video. Share it though. Send it to some other people. Make them can come get the truth this morning. Because we're going to be talking to Ralston Hyman. So after that lecture on Norwichites, they're spending $80 million up there to fix the road from down at the bottom, go up to the tank. Thank you. But there are lots more road up there to be done. And you'd have heard Mark Golding in his budget presentation said that all Operation Pride projects will be completed under the next PNP administration. So what the GLP doing now upon Norwichites is a vote buying scheme. They're trying to buy some votes by fixing part of the road. Norwichites is a PNP baby. It's a PNP child. And when the People's National Party returns to government, all the roads upon Norwichites, all of them, not just part, will be fixed. And you'll be getting water not just once a week, but on a daily basis. Because we have enough water in Portland. And we are going to fix the water situation in Portland once and for all. Enough water is in Portland to serve Jamaica. How the hell you come to Portland, come and build water shop? Go somewhere else with that. We want water out of our taps. We are saying no to water shops. Hear me now. I want to talk to you now about the value of money. And I want everybody to know and record all of the vloggers them. You know, no love comfy information. And like we deal with George Davis and showing the figures on murders in this country, this morning we're going to show you the value of money. The Prime Minister in his budget presentation increased minimum wage to $16,000. And I see a girl on Facebook saying her broad, if 16,000 no better than 6,500. 6,500, 16,000. 16,000 minimum wage in 2024. 6,500 in 2016. And she's saying if 16,000 or better. Children, let me see the hands of all who said the 16,000 is better than the 6,500. Because it is important to understand the value of money. The people. In 2016, a pound of chicken meat was anywhere between $80 and $120. Right across Jamaica. Anywhere between 80 and 120 in 2016. Like up the video, man. Share it. In 2024, a pound of chicken is anywhere between $380 and $420. You hear me say? In 2016, you could get a pound of chicken on average for $100. In 2024, a pound of chicken is running at about $400. Watch this now. Here comes the value of money or the power of money. And I am going to tell you that in 2016, $6,500 could have buy 65 pounds of chicken at $100 a pound. Are you ready for this? In 2024, at $400 a pound, $16,000 can only buy 40 pounds of chicken. Make that so keen. Now, me tell you now, I'm a very simple man. And why a lot of people watch this program is because we simplify things. We don't bother with the complication. Fits right, check it out. Somebody do the maths and put it in the chat room. At $400 a pound, $16,000. Divide 16,000 by 400. And see how much you get. 40. At $100 a pound. Yeah? And sometimes when we say it, me find it hard to believe that me have to go up on the calculator right now. And put in 16,000. Hold on, clear that. 16,000. 16,000 divide by 400 is only 40 pounds of chicken it can buy. Clear that. Put in 6,500. Divide it by 100. And you get 65 pounds of chicken. When me explain to you that 6,500 in 2016 could buy more than what $16,000 is buying you in 2024. So, some people just hear numbers, and because the number greater, you say it better. It's like a man offer a Jamaican man 10,000 US dollar, 10,000 Jamaican. And the next man said, no, man, me give you 100 US. But because the 10,000 sound more, him take the $10,000 and give a 15 instead. So understand on yourself and learn how to work the thing. They don't like us because we think critically. Critical thinking. Critical thinking. People are suffering in this country. I had a restaurant and a bag of CB chicken with 10 was 5,500. Talk to me. And them thing they must remember and look back. How much now for that bag of CB chicken with 10? How much for it now? I say to you, and I'm going to repeat it. In 2016, 2015, 16, when the minimum wage was $6,500, that $6,500 could buy you 65 pounds of chicken. In 2024, and June not come yet, so you still not have the 16, it's 15. But the $16,000 can only buy 40 pounds of chicken. And if you bring down the chicken to $350 a pound, it can only buy 45 pounds. So it still can't buy the 65 where it used to buy in 2016. Talk to me, Jamaicans. Talk to me. We're telling you, you know, there's no other program like this coming out of Jamaica, especially on a Saturday morning. We lay the cards on the table. So that is inflation 101. In 2007, how much chicken that could buy? But I forgot to do about the research, Ryan. But I forgot to do about the research because I never check how much the cost for a pound of chicken in 2007. I just checked it between 2015 and 16. So you can go check it. AI will tell you. Google will tell you. $600 for a bread now. How much was for it then? Well, there's a thing going around on social media, you know, where you see those prices. Where you see the matching prices. But I use chicken, and you know why I use chicken? Because 90% of Jamaicans buy chicken. 90%, if not more, buy chicken meat. And when you look at it, that is how you understand inflation. What inflation does. When I married in 2019, I ordered a bag for my mom. In 2020, it was almost $13,000. You see, everybody can spin and create their own narrative. But why you think the labor rights them troll this program? Why you think they come on a Saturday morning and try to disturb the flow? Because when SHACKA fame step out, we step out that the average man can understand what we're talking about. Telling all the while, I am a simple man. Very simple man am I. A man we understand the going arounds and coming arounds, let me call him now. And flour was $15 a pound. Rice was $18 a pound in 2007. Hold on the rally, hold on the for me. I could call in Ralston, you know, and talk about the Prime Minister. Because I don't touch the Prime Minister yet. Because the Prime Minister disrespect us on Thursday. Major disrespect to the Jamaican people on Thursday. And we're not taking it lightly. We're not taking it lightly at all. Just hold on the family rally. I'm coming right to you. Let me just make this connection here. Because we not going to sit down and make nobody draw a hole over our face. We are bright people, Christopher. We went to school. And we don't... You see, Bob Marley have a song named Ambush in the Night. You know? I don't know how many of you listen to it. But there's a line in the song say, they think we only know what they taught us. Yeah, man, them think where we know, our uncle where them tell we know a whole heap more than what they tell us. We are people who read a lot. We have inquisitive mind. Yeah? And them can't carry we down no garden part and tell we no foolishness. So, let me try and get back rally on this line over here so now. So that you can all hear him when we talk about the thing this morning. To get some food, your brother have to be your enemy. Ambush in the night. Rally morning.
Morning, sir.
Welcome to the show, man. How you do?
Yeah, man. We're good, man. Blessed.
I was just explaining to my listeners, Ralston, about the value of money. And I don't know if you realize that in 2016, a pound of chicken was $100 a pound.
Yeah, man.
And right now, a pound of chicken is about $400 a pound.
Yeah, man.
So I said to them, in 2016, $6,500, the minimum wage could buy 65 pounds of chicken. But in 2024, $16,000, the minimum wage can only buy 40 pounds of chicken.
Right.
You don't want no more understanding of inflation more than that.
And people who understand about money and know about economics know say the value of money is determined by what it can buy.
That's what I'm showing to them this morning.
Yeah, man.
That's what we're putting at the table.
Yeah, man.
Ralston,
go ahead.
I feel disrespected by the presentation of the Prime Minister on Thursday. And I'll tell you why, and you tell me if I have reasons to feel that way. The Prime Minister did not tell us anything about SSL. The Prime Minister did not tell us anything about the CCJ. The Prime Minister did not tell us anything about his statutory filing. And the Prime Minister did not talk about the Cuban situation with the doctors and nurses. I feel disrespected. You think I have reasons?
Yeah, man.
Reasons?
Yeah, go ahead.
Do you think those are fair comments?
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. And him also tell a whole heap of lie. So him spend most of the time. First thing him disrespectful by talking for so long. It was a PR team don't know about public relations. Keep his attention span now about beyond 60 or 90 minutes.
5 hours and minutes.
Huh?
5 hours and odd.
Yeah.
What can go so?
That alone demonstrates incompetence. And then he told a whole heap of lie about Jamaica's economic history, wasting people's time. And then he omitted those most important things that he said. So if he was really serious and respected the country, the first thing we talk about is the statutory declarations and tell us when they are going to be certified. Then he would have proceed to talk about things in relation to Marco Rubio thing about the Cuban people. They will tell us about the CCJ.
Hold on. Oh, you talk for 5 hours and change, and you don't talk about that issue where we have what? Over 400 Cuban doctors we have on the island?
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. And without them, the sector would collapse. It showed that him totally out of touch, and it was just a propaganda statement. He spent most of his time and lying to the country about the country's economic history.
He admitted, though, Ralston, that there's no growth.
Yeah, man. That can't go around. The numbers don't tell any lie. So, yeah, the numbers are there to show.
I was shocked when I heard him say that we have had 2 quarters of decline, but we are going to recover. And him never go for him. I was waiting for him to say, but we are not in a recession. Him never say it, Ralston.
No, him can't say that because him knows him that look even more stupid than he look.
So what happened to all those clowns now who were saying that we are not in a recession?
Well,
what are they saying now?
All them don't expose themselves. Yeah, all them do, and them also expose themselves because the Prime Minister made a whole lot of promises, none of which are written in the yellow budget book. But them never asked him how it is going to be financed. When Mark Wallen finished speaking and them couldn't bore no holes in anything, all them could have said is how it would be financed. Right. Nobody now asked the Prime Minister how the things that he said would be financed, although none of them is written in the yellow book.
All right.
So again, it shows how them expose themselves, the so-called analysts.
All right.
So them on TV last night, I tell you how it can lead to growth and all that lead to this and it lead to that. Clown them, man.
Hold on, no. Break this down. None of what Mark Golden said was written in the yellow book. How it is going to be paid for?
All right. So if they were a real analyst, the definition of an analyst is somebody who uses data in order to draw conclusions. So when the Minister of Finance, whoever she is, tables the budget, they table the big yellow book, Then they table the smaller book, the revenue estimates.
Yes.
Then they table the medium-term debt management strategy.
Yeah.
They table also the expenditure report, and they also table what is called the fiscal policy paper, which was something that was developed under the fiscal rules.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that is the most important budget document because it tells you where the government is going, what are the forecasts going down the road.
Yes.
Now, if they had real analysts and they read page 12, part 2 of the fiscal policy paper, they'd have seen that GDP, which is the total, what teach them this morning, total market value of all final goods and services produced in Jamaica. Nominal GDP, that's GDP before adjustment for inflation.
Mm-hmm.
It's programmed at $3.482 trillion this year. And in 28-29, it is programmed at $4.182 trillion, which means that the government is anticipating a $700 billion increase in nominal GDP over the period.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if they were real analysts, they would have realized that tax revenues represent 27% of GDP on average. So it means that the government is forecasting that they'll be collecting $242 billion in additional taxes without raising tax rates over the next 4 years.
An additional $242 billion.
Yeah.
Without any new taxes.
Without any new taxes.
Right.
Correct.
But now, the people are going to be paying more taxes.
Yeah. But there will be no new taxes. All of that will come from the movement in GDP from 3.482 trillion to 4.182 trillion.
Right.
You follow me?
Yes.
We're talking about nominal GDP. Now, if they were real analysts, they would have also read page 20, part 3 of the fiscal policy paper, which says that the government, any government, can run a fiscal deficit on average of 1.3% of GDP over the next 4 years and still hit the 60% debt to GDP ratio by the prescribed time.
Right.
So, for example, why favor at this 9-10 billion this year is because in the fiscal policy paper, they program that they are going to run a deficit of 0.3% of GDP this year. That's 10.45 billion. Next year, they're going to run a deficit of 0.9% of GDP. That's 33 billion. The year after, they're going to run a deficit of 0.9% of GDP. Again, that's 35 billion. And the year after, they're going to run a deficit of 0.1% of GDP. That's 4.182 billion. So all told, the government can run a deficit of 84 billion over the next 4 years and still stay within the fiscal rules.
So
you have the total.
All that Mark Golding were planning is still less than the 84 billion.
A whole heap of money less. That's one. And additionally, right now, this government has some 359.4 billion in discretionary recurrent expenditure. If the government is changed, as Mark Golding says, the people are not going to elect him to run the same JLP policy.
No, not at all.
So he can use that 359.4 billion to fund his priorities because his priorities are not the same
as this
the
government
priorities. Right. So you have the 242 billion in additional taxes, you have the 359.4 billion, and you have the 84 billion. So there's over 700 billion in revenues to play with to deal with what he has to deal with.
For the next 5 years.
Yeah, there are no analysts. There are clowns.
So Ralston, so even the things that Andrew said can also be paid for.
Right. But they never asked him who he's going to pay for it and make him define it.
No, because
That's the difference.
Because they are afraid of asking him any question, but they want Mark Golding to
I don't think they're afraid. Apart from, there are two reasons. They're afraid and they are very biased.
No, why they are afraid? If you're a Labourite, you can't try and make the leader, the GLP, look bad.
Precisely.
So you must be afraid to ask him the questions.
Precisely.
No, Ralston, all of this money we are talking about going forward, let's look back. How much of these monies were available before now?
Well, the money that they're talking about that is available in the future is based on their forecast of 1% economic growth. So if you said 2% economic growth, that money would double. If you said 3% economic growth, that money would triple.
Hold on, breakdown. But hold on a little bit. I still want to step back, Ralston, because why I want to step back? Our roads are in deplorable condition. Our schools are run down. Our hospitals are run down. And I am saying to the people of Jamaica that this government had money that them could have do a better job with all the infrastructure of this country than they have done. Am I right?
Because they misallocated the funds. The man who themselves the greatest finance minister are the most concerned and still they are still not showing that. All he was concerned about was paying down the debt before time. And that's still their priority. That is why the growth forecast in the budget is so unambitious.
1%.
Yeah, man.
So
that the Jamaican people.
So I am right when I say to my listeners and viewers that our roads never had to get to this stage.
No.
The government could have fixed them. They had money.
The hospitals them never have to run down to the level that them run down. The schools never have to run down to the level that them run down.
The government of Jamaica, and I said something in a video the other day, Ralston. I said this JLP administration have had the most money to spend.
Yeah, man. Them borrow the most money, them collect the most tax revenue.
So they had the most economic latitude than any other administration in this country.
And here that latitude comes from the foundation that was laid by the previous administration. So that was not a lie that the Prime Minister told in Parliament on Thursday.
I'm glad you go back there, Sir Ralston, because I want to check the DNA of that child. In 2011, we lost the IMF deal. It's not 2011.
2012.
No, it's 11. They got the deal in 2010. They got the deal in 2010 and lost it.
But they formally walked away from the program.
In 2011. So they got the deal 2010 and they lost it in 2011.
All right, but we could go further back because I want the people to understand all the lie them with the Prime Minister tell.
Talk to me.
In 2000, and let me go back again because I'm go back to 1962.
Right.
In 1962, Norman Manley, Crab Nethersoul was the finance minister, built out places like the Bank of Jamaica, Planning Institute of Jamaica, which they're abusing now. Mm-hmm. And that laid the foundation for the growth of the Jamaican economy that spilled over into the 1960s.
Right.
In the 1960s, when they took over in 1962, the economy was recording growth of 6 and 7 and 8%. But none of it went to the poor people. No housing, no education, everybody illiterate, and all of those things, right? Michael Malley came in 1972. The country was almost on the brink of a revolution. People like Junior Biles and them man, they sing I'm gonna beat down Babylon. Delmar Wilson sing Better Must Come and all of them things.
All of them tune. Mm-hmm.
Yep. So Michael come and say, well, we have to deal with them problem here, the illiteracy and the housing and all of those things.
Right.
Then fight Michael in conjunction with the CIA and all of them people. But even when them say Michael was reckless fiscally, when Michael left, the debt to GDP is where they are trying to get back to now, 60%. You hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Which part we're trying to get back in terms of debt to
GDP at 1979 or 80.
Yeah. Despite all the fight that Michael gave for the social revolution that helped to create people like Andrew Wallace in terms of education and all of them things.
Right.
The debt to GDP was only 60%.
60%.
When Mr. Seaga, the great minds that took over in 1980, when he was leaving office in 1989, the debt to GDP was 262%. And him said, what? Yeah, follow me.
The Prime Minister never talked about that. He never mentioned that.
You know all the people have to know that.
Never mentioned
that. He was a little boy. He
no,
maybe about 10 years old them time. Because he born 1973 or something like that.
But him know the history, Ralston.
Yeah, man.
So he's lying by omission.
Yep. So, one thing that Mr. Seaga said when he lost the election, that his greatest regret was that he never have what him call a social well-being program, no social revolution. So when he leave all over debt to GDP of 262%, the country never have nothing to show for it. Yeah? Seaga's own words. Yeah?
So let's go to the 90s now because...
Yeah, man. Up comes Omar Davies.
Hold on, before Omar Ralston, because in which year inflation got to 80%?
1991.
1991. That's less than 2 years after the PNP took government.
Yeah, man.
So that
have all of this backup to deal with. And that's why I finished the history. Mm-hmm. So when Seaga was leaving, here Andrew tell about 550. Seaga had this bogus auction. Yeah, where them used to tell people to them not to come at the auction and all of them something. So you have all of this backup. That's why even the man them in the US, Timothy Ashby and them man that say Seaga was like a con man because it was a bogus auction. So when they come and tell about 550, that was just bogus.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So when them lose office, the dollar dropped from 550 to $7 and change. And when they must go and leaving him, go over Bank of Jamaica and tell the people them say, they'll have a break loose. So here's the opposition leader who is the government, the Prime Minister who is the finance minister, going to the Bank of Jamaica and telling the staff that they'll have a broke loose. So when man them come in,
so
the
he
dollar
knew
start.
what was coming.
Yeah, of course, because I him leave it.
Right.
I him leave the time bomb. Yeah. So when Mike come now, everything break loose and the money up for IDB and IMF say, boy, better just liberalize the foreign exchange market. So the dollar dropped from 7, it was in September them did that. The dollar dropped from 7 to 21, and that is how you got the 80% inflation. Up comes Omar Davies. At that time, we had no reserves. Reserves were minus. We don't talk about reserves. Reserves were minus 500 million.
Him no mention that.
No, no, what the
Things
people
the
know
prime.
Hold
on, Ralston. Listeners, things that the prime minister leave out of the history lesson that he gave by omission. Talk to me, Ralston.
Right. So up comes Omar now, and
Omar Davies became Minister of Finance what year?
1992.
1992.
Yeah, so him come see all of them problems. Yep. So Omar come now and hike the interest rates in order to stabilize the situation. And when the country had this liberalization, the Banking Act was never amended and up to date to deal with the situation. We had no reserves. So Omar couldn't intervene at the foreign exchange market like when Andrew said, with the intervention by the BOJ, because there was no reserves to intervene.
Nothing to intervene, to assist.
Nothing to intervene.
They left the cupboard bare.
Bare, as usual. All right. Inflation was 8.6% when Omar came in. Poverty was 34%. Unemployment was 25%. By the time Omar left, the reserve 2007 reached now. The reserves were 2.4 billion. So from minus 500 to 2.4 billion. That is an increase of almost $3 billion. You come from minus, not zero now. Minus, you're underneath water.
Right. You're old.
Yep. All right. Inflation was 5%. Poverty dropped from 34% to 9%. Unemployment dropped from 25% to 9%. Yeah? Mm-hmm. Omar Davies at the first, Mr. Saylor couldn't pass no IMF test. Omar Davies at the first finance minister in Jamaica that passed 12 consecutive IMF tests. 12 straight IMF tests. The team was Omar Davies, Shirley Tyndall, Derek Latibodier. That was the IMF negotiating team at that time. Mm-hmm. 12 consecutive tests. Paid off the IMF in 1995 and went on a staff monitoring program. You follow me? Mm-hmm. 2007 September, PNP lost the election. JLP coming on power. Alsha, Ed Bartlett tell people that the Great Recession will help Jamaica because more tourists will come at Jamaica. Me asked Ronnie when he go to my parliament to ask the Prime Minister if they now go to the IMF. The Prime Minister at that time, Bruce Golding, told Ronnie that going to the IMF was neither necessary nor appropriate.
Right. So hold on now, listeners and viewers, I want to get this because this a wish part now, Jamaica economic crash. And this now, we are going to take you now to who really own the baby of economic stability. So, 2008 we then rally.
Yeah, man. Mm-hmm. Then they are spin round. Them time Barack Obama, Gordon Brown, Tim Geithner, Warren Buffett, all them man that run up and down over the world and say, we're going to deal with this problem because this is one of the biggest problems since 1933.
Yes.
And then they are telling people them say everything all right, nothing wrong.
So it was Bruce Golding, Audley Shaw, and Ed Bartlett that tell us that the world recession would not affect Jamaica.
I'm going to the IMF neither necessary nor appropriate. Yeah.
Right.
So fast forward now, reaching in 2009 now, the net international reserves of Omar built up dropped from 2.4 billion to under a billion.
Under a billion.
Yeah. Economy declined by 5%. 100,000 people lose them job. Then them say, them finally I got the IMF now. We ain't with the same director general plans people that an advisor to Audley Shaw at that time. Dennis Strong to all them man when she opposed that Audley Shaw shouldn't get a second chance. Mm-hmm. But I shut up them out now. Yeah. So 2009, fast forward November now, the IMF team start come down. About 10 o'clock the Friday morning, Central Bank Governor Derek Latibodier called me and said, Ralston, them say, I have to clean out my desk by 3 o'clock. Then fire Central Bank Governor Derek Latibodier, the only man who knew anything about IMF.
When was that? November 2009.
November of 2009. The man called me 10 o'clock and said, Audley Shaw said to clean out his desk by 3 o'clock because two bull can't roll in a one pen. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I saw them did now till February 2nd, 2010, them get an agreement. Them go and them take the wrong agreement. Them never know which agreement to take. Them take a 27-month standby arrangement. IMF, World Bank, IDB, give them 2.4 billion upfront.
Cash.
Upfront. Give them the money cash and say, we don't need to do this, we don't need to do that, we don't need to do that. Them only do the first test and them never do anything at all that them promised to do after that. Jean Leon, who was the head of the Caribbean Development Bank up to recently, he was the IMF resident representative in Jamaica. And when we used to call him and said, so Jean, what go on with the IMF agreement? Jean used to say, Ralston, these fellas can't give anything sensible to take to the IMF board.
They couldn't cross it. Nothing.
Couldn't cross it. None at all. Yeah? And that's for the country, but we can't get the money. And that is why them lost the election. Up comes.
So, hold on, man. We don't reach this yet. Tell us when they lost the deal in 2011. Because they got this deal in what? February 2010?
2010.
Right.
They never lose it. Them abandon it. As the IMF man, them say them never know until them write them and say them abandon the agreement because them can't test them, can't do the test and them say we're not about to go to school again.
Also, 2011, the government decided to abandon the IMF
abandon,
deal.
just as you Julian read out.
At what cost to Jamaica? How did that cost
significant costs were locked out of the international capital markets. Real GDP declined by 5%. Yeah? 100,000 people lose their job. The country's net international reserves were under $1 billion. The fiscal deficit was 6.75% of GDP. The overall public sector deficit was 10.75% of GDP. The current account deficit was 18% of GDP, one of the highest in the world, and the debt to GDP ratio was 147%, not the 135% that they were telling you about.
7%.
Yep.
Debt to GDP.
Right. Yep. The people at the IMF I say, yo, make them boy the feel, because them are going like them are disrespect big man. Them take money up front. Because remember, I said the IMF money are world money, you know.
Yes.
Are people money from the rest of the world.
American money, UK money.
Yeah. Everybody put up them quota. American money, UK money. IMF have over 100 members, so over 100 people money to take with. So the man must say, yo, them boy don't let them go like them a bad man. So you know, I'll punish them. Yeah? And make them feel.
Tell us about the JDX.
Well, on man, when I reach this yet, man.
Well, and in 2011, they bring in JDX.
Yeah, well, them have to do a JDX. No, part of the agreement was to get the JDX. So they must say, yo, cut the debt ratio, so you cut the amount of money we pay back on government debt and all. That was part of the agreement with them do. Yeah? Right. So all them things end up in a failure. Right. So after them do not know get locked out and the economy start run down. Portia come now and Portia have to call Maxine Waters because the man must say, yo, make them boy the feel because them have this
IMF not talk to it.
Because you take with the world money.
So country to country, we couldn't get no talk from the IMF.
No, because everybody follow what IMF say. If IMF say nothing lending the money, nobody not lending the money.
Right,
IMF
so nobody. So neither the IMF, IDB, World Bank would take a call. They wouldn't take a call from Peter Phillips coming from the office of the Minister of Finance in Jamaica.
Yeah, man. No, man, take which call. And we even start talking man take the call as the man said it was a dialogue of the death. You attack on the man now listen to the because man said, the boy not going like son or some bad man and got this big gun. You see me I said to you? Yeah. So I saw now Portia now I have to call Maxine Waters, who a big part of the Black Caucus, and say, yo, Christine Lagarde then became the managing director of the IMF.
Yvette Clark and them people.
Yeah, go take Christine for her.
And let me just remind people that there's a documentary out on this. There's a video out with Yvette Clark and those people telling us about they had to even go check Obama and beg Obama to call Christine Lagarde to even get a talk.
Yeah,
so
man.
These are not Ralston's argument or Ralston side of the story. There's a video out there upon this, Ryan. Go check it. Continue, Ralston.
But me can't talk because he was part of the negotiating. Them kind of over the Ministry of Finance and work on thing all Christmas. All enough of them boy over here chat at them out. Them never did them. We were the Ministry of Finance. How do you think Epoch farm?
Talk to me.
Because the man must say, all right. So after the man them finally agree now.
Hold on, Ralston. When the GLP lost the election in 2012, what was Jamaica's position? You said the debt to GDP was 147%.
147%.
Where was the reserve at that time?
Under $1 billion. The fiscal deficit was 6.75% of GDP. The overall public sector deficit was 10.75% of GDP. The current account deficit, the amount of money that we owe to the world, was 18% of GDP at the time.
Yeah.
100,000 people lose their work. The economy declined by 5%.
Okay.
Yeah?
All right. So
Right.
so we were in tatters.
Yeah, man. Everything wrecked. Let me tell you. And the man himself when I talk to him.
Hold on, no, man. I don't want to get to the fix here because Andrew said that this thing started, the revolution started under Bruce Golding. Tell me, what did they do to try and fix
sign
this?
Simple. Them sign and tell the man them so them all do them thing. They take the man them money and never do nothing.
Yeah, man, we get all of that. But after 2011...
Yeah, so there was no revolution. That's the point I'm making here. It's line. There was no revolution.
Hold on, Ralston, man. So May 2011, I think, is when we step out of the IMF deal. In May.
Yeah.
Right. So for that year, because the last election, what, February 2012?
Yeah, man.
It's February? I don't remember.
I don't remember for February.
Around December 2011. Now we take on 2012.
Yeah, man.
So you are saying that no fiscal policies was developed under Bruce Golding?
I am saying them tell the IMF that they are going to do them thing there and they never do it. That is why the man them policy are lock us out of the international capital market. So, them take the man them money up front and promise to do those things and never need anything.
All right. Let's get this. Let's go to Portia.
Yeah.
Let's go to Portia.
All right. So when the man them know and them agree with Portia say, we're going to help Jamaica because of Maxine and all of them things there.
Yeah.
The man them said, I have to make sure say what them they do never happen again. That is why EPOC was formed.
Right.
So watch the government and ensure the government live up to the commitments that the JLP administration, of which Andrew was a part of, never lived up to.
Right.
Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
So the man them say EPOC have a broad base represent everybody because the debt exchange, them do the debt exchange, make the man them lose their money and then them never continue to carry out the rest of the agreement. So we are going to do another debt exchange, but this time we now make it go the way it go. So we're going to make sure we have people from the private sector. That is why you got Biles and SHACKA and
you
from me was representing the workers and all of those things. Donovan Wignall from the MSME Alliance represented small business. We had Norman Grant who represented the farmers. Everybody in Jamaica was to ensure that the new PMP administration never did what the JLP administration did.
All right.
Nobody expected us to succeed over past 10 consecutive tests.
Before we reach the test. So EPOC was formed. What other fiscal policies were put in place at that time?
Well, so they created the EPOC, and when them say, we're not front loading any money to you. You have to do all of the things that the JLP promised to do. And when they do them, we give you the money on a quarterly basis. That is what Peter Phillips was under. And that is why they have to work with him resignation every day, because nobody expected us to succeed. Yeah? So he was willing to resign if we fail. So we had to do another debt exchange.
So Peter Phillips, hold on. Peter Phillips made a commitment that if we fail all the requirements set out by the IMF, he would resign.
Of course.
All right.
Because we couldn't go down that road again.
So this law that was put in place that we wouldn't run a deficit.
Precisely.
So when was that law put in place?
That law, as I said, the JP gave a commitment that them would do that and them never do it. So when Peter Phillips come in, he must do it and demonstrate to the people and say he's serious about it. You follow me? That was a precondition. Yeah? So we want to hit a debt to GDP of 60% by 25-26.
Right.
That was the and that means that the government and our minds are fears in that regard. And that is why the workers then have to go up on wages and all of that.
So there was a next debt exchange under the PNP.
Yeah, man. So that is what I said, yeah.
Right. And
because them squander the first debt exchange.
So this fiscal policy that we're talking about now, that we are saying it is also set in law. You are saying that all of this was done under Portia Simpson Miller and Peter Phillips?
And Peter Phillips, not me, so the whole world says so. That's why when the world attacked them said 13 years ago, they never said 15 years ago, where Andrew tried to tell the people 15 to 2 years before.
So the baby that is called fiscal discipline is not 15, it's 13.
No, 13 years. If you notice, all of the international agencies, when them write them, say the last 13 years. Because the 2 years before the 13 years was a complete failure. That was the most disgraceful thing that had ever happened to Jamaica in the international financial community. We locked out of the market.
So when it comes to 13-year-old fiscal discipline, it could not be for Bruce Golding.
No. Remember, as I said, when Bruce Gordon left, the fiscal deficit was 6.75% of GDP. The overall public sector deficit was 147%. There was 10.75% of GDP. The debt was 147% of GDP.
And
the economy declined by 5%.
And most important, the mother, which is the IMF, was not talking to us.
No, we're locked out of the international capital market, drifting like a ship without a rudder.
Hold on, would it be fair for me to say then that all this fiscal discipline we are talking about was really insisted upon by the IMF?
Yeah, man.
So it could be then said that the IMF is the mother of Jamaica's fiscal discipline.
Yeah, along with Peter Phillips, Portia Simpson.
No, man, Peter Phillips and Portia will be the father.
Yeah, man.
So,
correct.
So that means Bruce Gordon never had a relationship with the mother.
No. That's what I'm saying. We were locked out when that government left. We were locked out of the international capital market.
When the IMF decided to date Bruce Gordon tell Pierre lie, so he never get none.
Yeah, man.
Talk to me. So now, Ralston, we are in 2013. We get the IMF deal. What are some of the things that were put in place now to ensure that what the GLP did never happened again?
The main thing was EPOC, the watchdog body to watch over Peter Phillips and to make sure that he faithfully carried out what we agreed to with the IMF. So the EPOC, that's what I'll tell you. And that is how you hear about Biles and Duncan and all them people, because they were representing the financial community because of the debt exchange. I was representing the workers because of the wage freeze, because the workers had gone on a wage freeze and a JLP too. And again, the agreement was squandered.
Right.
Yeah, the farmers represented by Norman Grant and all of that. So
Norman Grant was on EPOC as well.
Yeah, man, representing the farmers.
So
Donovan Wignall representing the small business people. Yeah.
So you are saying to us, Ralston, that the Prime Minister stood up in the Parliament on Thursday
and tell a lie to the whole world.
Then, Ralston, I heard somebody with this. This is not my original. I heard somebody saying that they are disappointed with the Fourth Estate, the media. Because what would have expected from mainstream media in Jamaica is that a group of people would sit down, trash out all of this that me and you just got through a while ago, and determine that when this fiscal discipline in Jamaica started, and to really put it out there to the people that Prime Minister Andrew Holness is misrepresenting the truth.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. That I agree, and that is why I'm doing my part, because beautiful. I was a part of it.
You.
So we find it personally offensive that he would say that, because I was an integral part of it. He wasn't an integral part of it. Yeah? So he can't tell me nothing about anything. He didn't say, as they would have said on the street.
So here we go now, Ralston. We are in a recession. Somebody in the chat room said I should ask you if the starting numbers are out yet.
No, starting numbers are come out the end of this month. Sometime next week we get starting numbers.
Ralston, what effect the fact that starting has not been able to deliver the national census? What effect that would have on the country?
It means that the government cannot plan properly, because the census will tell you about the population, where the population is, what is the demographic of the population, who is 15, who is 20, who is 70.
So the government is flying blind?
Yeah, man, it's a very important tool. Yeah, and that took place under the man who said himself the greatest finance minister. It's the first time it ever happened in the history of Jamaica.
I have a question for you, Ralston.
You can't complete a census.
Hear this question. What did the IMF said in the report about Jamaica's fiscal discipline at the end of the Bruce Gordon administration?
The IMF contended that it was a big disappointment, and they were disappointed with Jamaica's performance. And as a result of that, that's why they weren't even talking to us, and their friends at the IDB weren't talking to us, and their friends at the World Bank weren't talking to us. Facilities which we applied for, they never allowed us to draw them down. Well, they have a thing with them called cross-conditionality, where the IMF has say, yo, if them boy then agree to what I do, make sure not give them nothing. Simple.
I just want to say to my listeners and viewers, you're watching Portland Spice TV. And we have over 700 people watching right now. And we only have 244 likes. Like up the video, people. Show an appreciation. over 700 people watching right now, Ralston. And we're calling them to like up the video. Now, here we are, Ralston, in 2025. And we just come out of the budget presentation. We mentioned some of the things that the Prime Minister did not talk about, and we see that as disrespect. But tell me, what are the growth policies you heard from the Prime Minister?
Well, we never heard it. The Prime Minister was all over the place making all kinds of promises. As he himself said, it was a prospectus. He tried to sell something to somebody.
Yes.
There's no coordinated growth strategy. You with me? In fact, the Prime Minister's own ministry, the Prime Minister is not the man who are all about the economy the most. You know?
Well, we're going to talk about that because we hear that him create a bottleneck.
Yep, that's the point I'm going to make. So him, I want the greatest impediment to economic growth in Jamaica, because him take on all of these ministries in the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation and the Office of the Prime Minister. And him cannot manage all of those things. The Prime Minister is going to be spending 60% of the country's capital budget, because 34 billion of the
Prime Minister.
Billion.
Is it that he don't trust the other people around him, Ralston?
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. And him love power. Him operate on a kind of dictatorial style. So him carry everything up on a team office. And him not have the capacity, to deal with all of those things. That's a big problem for the country, the way the government is organized.
So the fact that we didn't spend the capital budget for many years now, you are blaming the Prime Minister.
Yeah, man. And the right-hand man, the Minister of Finance, because the Prime Minister have most of the country's capital budget. And the procurement process, which them tell you about, was in the office of him right-hand man, the Minister of Finance. So the Prime Minister is holding back the country.
I heard the leader of opposition talking to you yesterday morning, and he explained a scenario with a deal that he was doing as a lawyer.
Yeah, man.
And it took some time because the Prime Minister himself needed to sign a document.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. Yeah, man. And it facilitates corruption, because I'm answering to me can't bother wait to agree somebody palm.
And get this moving.
And get this thing moving. Yeah, man. So the Prime Minister is all about the country and facilitating corruption, because he take on all of these things up at his office and he not have the capacity to manage all of those things.
So you did not hear the growth strategy from the Prime Minister?
No, neither from Favour Williams. It is an accountant's budget. They don't have a growth strategy. So even those who question us why we're sister, they cannot look at the numbers. The government in its own forecast, so them only have to grow by 1% per year for the next 5 years, 4 years. And then we say so that I want them right now in the budget book.
Now, tell me something, Ralston. What were the growth strategies you heard from the leader of the opposition?
Well, the leader of the opposition spoke about the growth strategy, the 4 E's. The Prime Minister made himself a clown by talking about economic this and economic that. Yeah? The growth strategy, the leader of the opposition spoke about the massive gaps in the country's external accounts, and that they'll deal with those things by investing in agriculture, investing in energy, which this government has done nothing about. The cost of energy in Jamaica is now twice what it was in 2016. Investing in education, investing in efficiency, investing in the country's labor force, and invested in the creative industries in order to drive economic growth. A coordinated 5E strategy, that was clearly outlined.
You mentioned the creative industry, and something that shocked me in the Prime Minister's speech. He also spoke about the culture and the creative industry. But what shocked me? No, but what shocked me? Hear this. The man said they are now going to review their policy, because if you give all this money to the culture and the creative industry, you have to be sure that you are going to get return on your money. What that tells me is that the Prime Minister don't see the money that he's putting in the culture and the creative industry as an investment. Because it is obvious to me now that they have no understanding of the culture and the creative industry and how to get returns from it. NC wouldn't be so concerned.
And they haven't given any money to the industry. The $1 billion fund, nobody has gotten any money from the $1 billion fund.
Nobody not get no money. You hear him talk about somebody gone out the day before him talk. Because they have put this money there and they have not really given anybody any of the money.
No, nobody will get the money, man. They don't understand these things, man.
They don't have a clue.
Yeah,
and
man.
therefore, if they have projected 1% growth for 4 years, then can the Jamaican people settle for that? 1%?
No, because as I said, them believe the people have no ambition. Because their thing is unambitious. So them believe the people that work with this not unambitious thing and just want to live like that.
Is it unambitious to Ralston, or is it based on bare reality? Because if you don't know how to grow it, then you go and tell the truth and say you can only do 1%.
Yeah, so what there is an admission that they don't know how to deal with it. Yeah, man.
So if you are only gonna be growing by 1%, and with the other thing that the Prime Minister never mentioned a word about is what Donald Trump is doing with all the tariffs and all of that. How can you be the Prime Minister, Ralston, in a budget presentation with everything that Donald Trump is doing, and you mention nothing about it?
Yeah, that's the point I'm making to you, that the gentleman is in a different world. He's operating above his capacity. Yeah? They call it the Peter Principle, where you get exalted above your level of competence. That is what is reaching the Prime Minister.
What are the fears you have, Ralston, based on what is that happening in America? What Canada is also responding? What would all of that do to a Jamaican economy?
All right. Now, if the Prime Minister was a real Prime Minister and an economist, because I'm attempting to make people believe he's an economist, while he was speaking, every international central bank, the Bank of Japan, the Bank of England, the Swiss National Bank, Sweden's Riksbank, the Federal Reserve Board, the American Central Bank, all of them held their benchmark rates at the same level that they were before. Mm-hmm. So, Bank of England is rated at 4.5% per annum. The Federal is rated at between 4.25 and 4.5% per annum. The Bank of Japan held its rate at between 0.25 and 0.5% per annum. The Swiss National Bank held its rate at 2.25% per annum. What they're saying, we cannot move interest rates. We have to watch and see and assess the inflationary impact of Donald Trump's policies. The stock markets were selling off. If the Prime Minister was a real Prime Minister, I don't understand them thing. So that means the Bank of Jamaica have a rate decision to make on Thursday. The Bank of Jamaica cannot cut its interest rates again because of what is happening internationally. There's going to be a run on the Jamaican dollar. More pressure
because there's uncertainty.
Precisely. So that's where, after starting with his declaration and say, this is what I'm going to do about my declaration, Madam Speaker, the Prime Minister should then proceed and talk about what is happening in the international environment. Because Jamaica
hold on, Ralston. When I hear some analysts saying that the presentation was brilliant, I am wondering if I am stupid. Because I am saying
they're stupid,
Jamaica
man.
is not in a silo by ourselves.
Yeah, man.
We operate in the global space.
Yeah, man.
And with what is happening, with what America is doing, how can you not mention anything? Neither from the finance minister have one more go at it. You think she's gonna say something about that on Tuesday?
Well, even if she says something about it, that is like an afterthought. That is where you have to start at the beginning, because that is the beginning. Jamaica is a small 25 billion player and a 105 trillion player. Then they're ready. And that's how you have to start. So him should have started in declaration, then him go to that and stop waste time on foolishness and try to mislead the people. Yep.
So the question is that what are the concerns that Jamaica should be showing now based on what is happening?
Well, that's the point I'm making. So I'm saying now, it means that the central bank can't bring down interest rates much further. Yeah? Mm-hmm. So it means that you have to now be looking as to how you get capital to businesses in order to accelerate the process of economic growth. Mm-hmm. You with me? Yeah, you have to look at your energy policy and say, we have to bring down the cost of energy so that we can cut our energy bill, which runs at $2.5 billion every year. Mm-hmm. You have to go to agriculture so you can cut the food import bill. So you have significant foreign exchange savings to deal with the 3-year decline in remittance flows. All them numbers of the Prime Minister never in charge of Parliament. What kind of Prime Minister is he? We use the remittance money to pay for the gap in the external account.
Remittance is down.
That is shrinking 3 years straight.
3 years straight remittances. Yep. And that's our biggest foreign exchange earner, right?
Biggest foreign exchange earner, yeah.
And we have not heard, he didn't mention anything about that. in his presentation.
Tourism only netted $1.76 billion last year. Yeah? And that is also going to be affected by Trump's policies because Trump policies are going to push up the cost of living in the U.S., make it more difficult for people to travel. To have the discretionary income to travel. Yeah?
Talk to me about this $2.1 billion in direct foreign investment. How is that going to be possible? How is that going to be possible now?
That is not realistic because when we look at the BOJ's numbers, the BOJ told us that last year we got less than $400 million in foreign direct investment flows coming from $1.4 billion in 2008. Now, every international investor is staying close to his money right now while they assess the inflationary impact and the uncertainty surrounding Trump's policies. So we don't know how they could be projecting $2.1 billion, jumping from $376 million to $2.1 billion in 1 year.
So hold on, we had $376 million in direct
last year, coming from $1.4 billion in 2008.
How come the analysts, them not asking that question? Uncle me and you here talk about this, you know? This $2.1 billion that them said them going get in foreign direct investment.
Colin, there's some little man asking for them stuff what people are calling. Them take poor people for fools. So them little youth they come on radio and chat them all for fools there and I try and mislead the people because them not hearing the numbers, them not reading the numbers. Yeah? As we said, the definition of an analyst is somebody who use numbers to draw conclusions. Them not give the people them the numbers that us PR exercises and singing for them supper them.
You have a better chance than me to get a Favor Williams on your show. I doubt the Prime Minister going to come because I want to say this morning that the Prime Minister of Jamaica is hiding from the media. I'm not taking no interview. It's on the one place I expect to see him now. It's over nationwide. But Favor might come. Can you try and get her? Please try.
None of those people are willing to come on my show. Nigel Clark used to come a couple of times with assistance.
Yes.
But none of those are going to do it.
And is that the reason why they want to have a team debate for the finance minister now?
Yeah, man, because they know that them weak. She's weak.
But let's go back to the serious matter. Because if they don't get this amount of foreign direct investment, will we see that 1% growth?
No. That's the point I'm making too, that even that 1% is dicey because of what is happening in the international environment. In times of uncertainty, investors stay close to cash. That is why investors are selling stocks and keeping their money in cash because I'm going to say, I make sure I have my money near to me. Nearest thing to me is I have cash now I buy gold. That is why gold prices are historically $3,000.
Gold gone.
How come the Prime Minister and the Prime Minister never talk about them something?
You see, let me tell you something.
I'm going to pretend like him know about economics.
Let me tell you one thing that I know, Ralston, that when we do voice and speech training and we were doing some media training, they told us, that when you ask somebody a question and they take a very long time to answer, trying to go for infinitum to answer the question, they are not sure about what they are saying.
Yeah, man.
And they are not confident in what they are saying. And that is why the Prime Minister took 5 hours and some minutes because the Prime Minister is not confident in what he himself is saying. He's not sure. Not sure.
Yeah, man.
Because how can you come to the Jamaican people for 5 hours and you don't talk about what is happening with the U.S., with tariffs, the U.S. putting on tariffs and everything? Canada is responding. Mexico is responding. China is saying that I'm ready for any kind of war, whether economic war or physical war.
All of that missed them. Yeah, man.
How you don't come with all of that?
It's not only him. His entire PR team, Marlon Morgan and all of those fellas, they are clueless about international economics and the history of Jamaica. Yeah, man. So it's not just him, his whole team. Yeah, they are clueless.
Let's talk a little bit about some solutions, Ralston. The election is coming. We know it's coming. But anybody get into power will have all those international issues that we are just talking about to deal with. How are we going to be dealing with these?
Well, as I said before, if you look at the external accounts, then you'd see that you give yourself more leverage if you get your cost of energy down. So you don't have to pay $2.5 billion US per annum for oil.
Right.
Getting energy down means that your economy is more competitive, both in your domestic market and export market. So you can export more and you can import less.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have to focus on agriculture so that you can reduce the food import bill, so you have more foreign exchange
well, let me just say
leverage.
this. One of the things that impressed me from Mark Golding is that we are going to bring the food importation bill down by 25% in our first term.
That is $400 million.
But he also said that there was a plan for the Caribbean to bring that down ending 2025. So when other Caribbean nations are completing that, Jamaica did not make a move on it.
No, we're going in the opposite direction. We were increasing. Right. So if you do that, that's $500 million you free up.
Yes.
Yeah? We have to more closely integrate tourism with agriculture, with the creative industries.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, with manufacturing, so that you can get more from the tourism. Move from less than 2 billion to 2 billion and change, 3 billion and change. So the effect is that you are going to export more in terms of your goods and services, and you are going to import less, so you have more foreign exchange at your disposal. If you have more foreign exchange at your disposal, then you are less vulnerable to external developments. It means that you'd also have more money to invest in the real sectors of the economy locally, because the Bank of Jamaica would not have to be paying people to lock up money in the vault. Yeah? And pay them 6.5% and 6.25% per annum to lock up money in the vault. That money could be working for the economy.
Talk to us about the government floating a paper between the government and the Bank of Jamaica, floating paper every week. What is that, Ralston? Tell us about that. Make us understand that.
So in order to protect the value of the dollar because of the shortage of foreign exchange, the Bank of Jamaica, apart from intervening, Mr. Bile says that he intervened in the foreign, which is something that the Prime Minister never tell the country. And talk about exchange rate stability. In order to keep the exchange rate stable, because we're not earning any money and running large trade deficit. The trade deficit for the first 10 months of last year was $4.63 billion. The Bank of Jamaica has to either intervene with the reserves, or the Bank of Jamaica has to pay Jamaican people to lock up their money in the vault in the Bank of Jamaica.
Instead of buying US.
Instead of buying US dollars. You know what the Bank of Jamaica paid them? 6.25 and 6.75% per annum.
Is that
so imagine
sustainable?
You have Jamaican dollars locked up in the vault, and we are using taxpayers' money to pay interest to lock up the money in the vault.
Is that sustainable?
No, that's not sustainable. That is why I say we have to earn more foreign exchange, so that you don't have to do that. That's the point I'm making, and that's what the Prime Minister never told the country, that the country is paying a high cost for the stability.
Because the Bank of Jamaica also said they spent $1.1 billion
US dollars over between January of 2024 and January of 2025 to stabilize the dollar, and that's on the US dollar side.
1.1 billion US, that is 160 billion Jamaican.
Exactly, and that's one side. But there's also the Jamaican dollar side, where they float CDs. And you pay 6.25% per annum on the
because
CD.
What the Bank of Jamaica is saying to investors, instead of investing in US dollars, don't buy no
Lock
US
up the
dollars.
money with me.
Give me the money, give you 6.5% interest on your money.
Precisely.
What is the interest rate on regular deposit? What's the interest rate on regular deposit now?
Yeah, and taxpayers have to pay for service that without that money working for the country, that money is locked up in the vault. That can't make sense.
What is the interest rate on regular deposits?
In the banking system?
Yeah.
2%.
2%. So you are getting 4.6%.
2.5 and 4.75 higher than what the banks are paying.
You're getting 400% more
to
not buy US dollars to invest in.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. Let's lock it up in the vault and make it go on rotten. Prime Minister never explained that to the country when they talk about stability. You have to earn stability by exporting more and importing less. That is how you use the market to stabilize the dollar. Yeah? You might make the government too much gray here.
Our food bill, Ralston, is how much the last
1.6 billion for the first 10 months. So I end up at $2 billion.
For the first 10 months of 2024.
Yeah, man. You know that the money that we spend on buy food and tin goods and all of them things.
Right. How much is the oil?
1.6. Yeah, 1.6 billion was more than all of the money that we get from all of the things that were exported for the first
Take your
10
time
months.
with me. How much is the oil bill?
Oil bill is 1.6 billion for the first 10 months.
1.6. So we look.
So the food bill and the oil bill are the same.
Food bill and the oil bill. So and you are expecting both of them to reach 2 billion.
2 billion, man. Yeah,
so
man.
We're looking at 4 billion for food
4
and
billion,
oil.
Yes.
And both of these are things that we can cut down on.
And that's the point I'm making. We can cut
down on both of these.
Yep. And I'm saying to you, it is a dangerous situation because all those two bills, each of them is more than the whole of the money that we get for export.
How much we get for export? All our export.
1.5 billion. All our exports come to 1.5 billion for the first 10 months of last year. Export. Yeah, so they have to put 100 million on that to buy the food.
Buy
and
any one of them. To buy any one.
Yeah,
so we couldn't buy the two.
No, that's the point I'm making. That's a dangerous development, and that is something that.
How much we made from tourism?
Tourism was 1.76 billion for the whole year.
So you couldn't buy the food for 10 months if you really look at it?
No.
And
so we believe that
tourism is how much? 1 point how much?
1.76 billion for the whole year.
1.76 tourism.
For the entire year, remember. The food thing after 10 months.
So 12 months.
Yes.
And then I have 10 months. I take notes in Ralston.
Yeah, man.
I take notes. No.
And for those who
doubtful,
hold on. One more. For those who doubtful and have them head in the sand so much like ostrich, these numbers are available on Statin's website. So I tell them where them can find them.
And remittance was how much?
Remittances for the whole year was 3.128 billion. Them can find that on the BOJ's website.
Remittance. So that's just a little over 4 billion. So that is on island food and we import a whole lot more things.
Yeah, that's the point I'm making to you, man. You know what, so the raw material and intermediate goods bill, almost 1.7 billion. Because those are the main things that we import. Most of the things we use for production, raw materials and intermediate productive goods. 1.7 billion US dollars.
1.7. For 10 months or 12 months, that?
10 months. Which 12 months, man? The trade figures are for 10 months.
And the remittances, the 3.1
full year
is for the
1 year.
Months.
Yeah, man. And the tourism, 1 year.
So we're not making enough money to take care of ourselves.
Precisely. So if the analysts were real analysts, if the Prime Minister understood economics, he would have dissected all of those numbers and said, Madam Speaker, this is alarming. And then the next thing we need to go to know in terms of Madam Speaker, it looks like taxpayers only pay Madam Speaker for come to Parliament when JLP people attack. You understand that?
Hold on, Ralston. You expect the woman husband for attack and she not present?
What is wrong with you? With the opposition leader and the opposition spokesman.
She not in a nut with Mark Golding. Mark Golding this her last year. So she's the wife of the Prime Minister. So
well, she only give credence to what himself. We can allow that as taxpayers where the Speaker only come to Parliament.
But it's true. He never tell a lie. Isn't she the wife of the Prime Minister?
Yeah, man. But that's the broader point that we're supposed to make. We can't have a speaker that is so patently biased, but she only come when fair people matter. No, man. None of that would be her fault. The speaker is supposed to be unbiased.
But one of the problems we are having in this country, in Ralston, the government is not governing as a Jamaican government. They are governing as a GLP government.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. But the people of the country shouldn't tolerate that.
No.
Because the taxes is not JLP taxes, are our taxes. Paying back the loans are not JLP paying back the loans. It's the people's money paying back the loans.
Ralston, you said that we are getting more taxes than ever.
Mm-hmm.
How much taxes the government collect last year, 2024?
Well, up to December, they had collected almost 800 billion.
800 billion.
The projection was to collect 899 billion.
Hold on. So you're saying they collected 800 billion up to when? December?
Up to December.
So that's 12 months.
No, man, that's the last available figure. Remember the fiscal year starting at April.
On April. And the intention was to collect 890 billion.
899.
899, nearly 900 billion. And they collected 800 billion already. And so they're looking at another 100 billion. You expect that to come?
Yeah, man, they might end up like about 10 billion short, but they might get there.
So you think they might end up 10 billion short. The recession, Ralston, what are the predictions for the first quarter 2025?
Well, we said I'm expect to get between 0 and 0.1%, which means that it's still up on the floor.
Hold on. Wayne Henry, hold on there, Ralston, because me are right. The expectation for 2025, first quarter, is between
0 and 0.1%.
Between 0 and 0%, that's no growth, and 0.1%, that's still no growth. That's still no growth. So if that is the prediction, Ralston, then we're starting an L-shaped recession.
Yeah, man.
Did he make any prediction for the second quarter?
No.
So if the prediction for the first quarter is 0 to 0.1%, that, my friends, are no growth.
Yeah, but remember, Colin, the man them tell us that even when them come out, for the next 4 years at 1%, you're up on the floor same way.
But the country can't go like that, Ralston.
No,
then that's why the Prime Minister out there going like, say this thing is so cozy and nice. Ralston, you must be lying. You got to be lying.
Well, as I said to the people who say, go and read the fiscal policy paper, which is the government's document that they put out now, the budget.
Ralston, I'm going to tell you something. I don't know if you are vexed with me this morning, but me have to try find Dennis Chung. Me have to try find Chris Stokes.
Yeah, man.
Because me
find them and ask them to provide the data which part them get them data from.
What the Prime Minister laid out, him admit that we flatline, you know. Because he showed a graph that showed the flatline.
Yeah, because although him tell lie, him no want to be look incredible. So him still have to say some of the things that we know say true.
With the flatline. And after the flat line, he has not showed a spike, any growth.
No, because the way him write down is 1% until 2030. I know we say so, and them writing on the book, and the IMF have to get them book there so them can't tell a lie.
So we must change course.
Remember the fiscal policy